Good evening and welcome to episode 55 of the Loaded Dice podcast. Tonight, your hosts are Doug and Andrew.
Hello, how's it going, everybody?
We love you, Doug. Yay!
Yeah, excellent. That's just what I hear every time. It's great.
I feel like we should just make you like a soundboard, and you can just have somebody walking behind you pressing the soundboard as you go about your day-to-day business.
I'd love a laugh track. That would be great. All of my jokes would suddenly be funny. Sorry, funnier.
Yeah. Good save, mate. So we weren't planning on dropping episode 55 tonight. That's for damn sure. I've been absolutely sick as a dog since sort of last week. Went and saw a doctor, and she seriously looked at me in the eyes and she went, "You need to take 7 days off and confine you to bed rest."
Yeah, right.
And I laughed and then couldn't stop coughing for a while. So if I do start coughing, I will mute my microphone and slowly die in the corner and leave Doug to deal with this episode.
Well, that's great, because I think I'm also coming down with something, so I'll just cough into the microphone while you're coughing off mic. It'll be great.
Yeah, no, excellent. Papa Nurgle has, without a doubt, been bestowing his blessings on everybody.
Yep. It'll be great radio. Stay tuned.
That's it. Shit, and I just... That's fantastic. All the things I was about to start reading, I think I just deleted.
Closed? Yeah. Well done.
Closed, yeah. Oh, no. It was okay. It was only the Dreadnought FAQ. The Drop Pod FAQ. Jesus Christ.
Unfortunately, there's all the important stuff's in there, clearly.
Okay. So if you haven't seen it already, guys, Forge World, while we were sleeping down here on the underside of the disc, decided that we needed a big errata and FAQ for Horus Heresy. So we woke up this morning to something like, how many pages is this thing?
16
plus
7
pages.
plus 6.
Yeah, so 30-something pages of errata and FAQ, split up between Legion, Solar Auxilia, Mechanicum. Custodes actually got their own document, which I'm sure a lot of people have felt is a long time coming. And then, as we were just joking about, drop pods of all shapes, sizes, and persuasions also got their own document and had some changes and updates to them. One thing I thought was very interesting, and I think we've seen this out of GW Prime recently with their FAQs and stuff, is if you go to Warhammer Community where this is stored, because this is now obviously where you get all your FAQs and other useful things, as the tab says.
That's the one.
They're all erratas. So you've got a drop pod, a Talons of the Emperor, and Horus Heresy Age of Darkness errata. Everything else previous to this is now gone. There's also a Horus Heresy Betrayal at Kauth, which is a FAQ errata for the board game.
Yeah.
If anybody plays that, but that's back from 2 years ago. So this stuff's come through today, and it is tagged as an errata. They're not FAQs. I remember
having
a bitch session about it's not an FAQ and it's changing rules.
Yep. Ooh, and some designers' commentary in the Age of Sigmar ones.
Oh, I haven't even noticed that one.
So they've got some of them
Age of Sigmar, did you say?
So they've got an errata and then a designer's commentary for a few of the battle tomes and stuff.
Fair enough.
It's like fun. I've never really watched like the director's commentary on DVDs and stuff. I don't imagine I'll read the designer's commentary.
My brother, when we were growing up, like when DVDs were like a new thing.
Yeah.
Which also reminds me of another conversation I was having with somebody today about like technology. But anyway, my brother used to be somebody that would do that. Like he would go and buy DVDs like specifically to sit and watch the director's commentary. And it would be so weird because you'd like walk into the lounge room at my parents' place and my brother would be sitting there like on the couch, like watching The Matrix, except he wasn't watching The Matrix. He was like listening to, the directors or whatever carry on about Neo and the Bible and all sorts of crazy stuff for 2.5 hours. And I swear to God, I think he almost got more enjoyment out of that than he did out of watching the movie.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. So yeah, I'm going to have to read them, actually. It's a shame. Because they're the new FAQs. So the errata is updates to rules and stuff, and then the designer's commentary is when people ask questions like...
It's actually the FAQ.
Yeah,
right.
If we're measuring model to model and not base to base, and I've got a guy on a model that's 20 inches across, a guy on a base that's 20 inches across, does that mean no one can target him and I automatically win?
I just want to make a Sylvaneth Wildwood my general. Can I still do that? And can it then move through other Sylvaneth Wildwoods to move around the battlefield?
I don't know.
Yeah. The hard-hitting questions right here.
Yeah.
Cold and flu medication and hard-hitting questions. That's what you tune in for.
Clearly.
Okay.
Anyway, we're already off topic, so we should probably roll back around to Horus Heresy.
Yep. Okay. So updates in errata, and there is a, I think the last page or the last 2 pages of the Age of Darkness updates in errata is actually an FAQ document. But it is good to see them calling it an errata if that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to have a bit of a chat through this. There's a few good clarifications in here. There's a lot of your general errata stuff, which was just trying to stop mainly Iron Warriors players from being bigger jerks than they already are.
Yeah. It's all right. We're used to it. We're used to being the heel of just like everybody in the Imperium.
Yeah.
Supposed to be an amphitheater. Fuck the lot of you.
Yeah. So that's kind of one of those things that happened, including the Tormentor being 1 point over the ability to put it into a 3,000 point game, which seems really weird.
There is so much I'm unhappy about Perturabo's FAQ, which makes me glad that I really don't rely on him and that I'm relying more on my 13 Iron Circle in a 3,000 point list.
Yeah, so that was pretty good. So have a bit of a look through there. Then we'll have a look at the custodes and the drop pod stuff, which should be a bit of fun. But what we might do is, did you want to have a bit of a hobby chat?
Yeah, happy to if you'd like.
Let's have a hobby chat because I actually did some hobby, so I want to talk about that.
You need to talk about your hobby.
Yeah. So got a decent sized game. I think it was a 3,000 point game of 30k in on the weekend against a fellow Death Guard player, Adrian, which was a lot of fun. You can find Adrian on Instagram as I think he's Death Guard Adro.
Yeah, that sounds right. Is there an underscore in there?
There might be an underscore if you want to check that for me, dog. So that was pretty cool. We played sort of an Istvan battle with my trader Death Guard against his loyalist Death Guard. And we also had Martin from Monkey Minis hanging out with us, and he was sort of taking turns with my army, which yielded some rather interesting results when it was like, no, I want to drive this Land Raider over here. Actually, I like it over there, so I'm going to drive it back that way, which was a bit of fun. Call it crossed chain of command or something like that. But it was a resounding victory for the traitors, which was a lot of fun. We sort of rolled forwards and very sort of slowly crushed the loyalist Death Guard into the dust of the Coral City, as it should be.
Oh, good.
Which was a lot of fun.
Excellent. He is Death Guard _Adro.
Death Guard _Adro on Instagram. Definitely worth a follow because he does get to a ton of events and always takes a lot of photos. And he's always doing a lot of hobby. I saw it earlier today. He was doing some trench lines, which looked pretty cool. So that was a fun game, but sort of hobby progress. I have managed to get some undercoating and whatnot done for my Zoikan Rebels.
Oh, good.
Well, Renegades, Rebels, whatever you want to call them.
Yep.
So hopefully tomorrow I can get started on painting some of those dudes,
nice.
Which should be cool.
You know what rules you're going to use for them?
Sorry, what was that?
Do you know what rules you're going to use for them?
Well, I think the Zoikans I'm actually going to run as they were the army I was seriously considering running as Forge World Renegades.
Yeah.
But then cool. I think I sort of ran into the problem of like the unit choices. Some of the unit choices just don't make any sense. They're literally point for point more expensive than other units and just completely worse. And I can't remember what it was, but there was something that just really put me off it. So I was considering Valhallans.
That's right. Yeah.
To sort of show like the industrious nature Ferrazoka and Asphodel. But I haven't, to be perfectly honest, I haven't really settled on it. And for the small force I've got at the moment kicking around, which I think I've got 4 units of guys and some heavy weapons teams, and I've got 4 Russes at the moment. I've got 2 autocannon Russes and 2 just standard Russes. It's not really going to make much of a difference. Like obviously the Valhallans, they don't degrade as fast and whatnot. And I picked up a Valdor tank hunter off Rob. So that's the other thing that's sort of kicking around for that army at the moment. But yeah, I don't think it makes a huge amount of difference. I just want to try and get some pain.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which should be good. And then the other hobby thing, because we do count buying things and opening boxes as hobby, is my Song of Ice and Fire Kickstarter. As we know, yours did as well, Doug.
It sure did.
So that was pretty cool playing around with that, and we've got some hopefully some games lined up for this Friday.
Yeah, that'll be really good. I'll see how many Lannisters I can get painted before then.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I think I want to, if I get any painting done between now and Friday, I think I want to put it into the Zoikin. So
yeah, that's fair.
My Starks aren't going to get started till after the wife and child head off on holidays on Friday morning, and then hopefully over the next couple of weeks I can make a decent dent into them.
That's all right. They won't be on the table for long anyway.
Well, actually, one of the really cool things is because it's a really cool Kickstarter, and I've spoken to a lot of people that wish they had have backed it.
Yeah.
And I was almost somebody who would have been left wishing they had backed it and not actually having backed it, because when it was out on Kickstarter, nobody really told me about it. I think you guys mentioned it maybe once or twice.
Yep.
But I just seemed to constantly miss the discussions around it.
Yeah.
And then by the time it sort of came to my attention, it was a late pledge only thing. So I ended up backing it on late pledge and didn't really add much to it. I got the core, and I think I picked up an extra box of Lannister Knights.
Nice.
And some extra Berserkers.
Yep.
And then dice bags and dice or whatever it was for $5. Which was fine. I'm not complaining. I did pick up the Kickstarter, which is good. But yeah, it's sort of, I think it's a game that's going to have a pretty big following.
Yeah, and the Kickstarter was really well serviced, I guess, as well. Just because they broke through just a ton of their stretch goals. There was so much free shit in that box.
Oh yeah, like that the cardboard box that came in it.
Yeah,
that was all. They were all stretch goal things, weren't they?
They sure were.
Yeah,
so lots of alternate sculpts and a couple of different units. Characters mostly.
The giant throne.
Yeah,
holy shit! I didn't realize that was going to be that big.
Yeah, it's not small. So in theory, it's meant to be for whoever has initiative.
Okay.
I think is what they were originally planning for it. But honestly, you could do whatever with it. It's a giant throne made out of swords.
Yeah, it actually kind of hurts to pick it up.
It does a little.
It's like I grabbed it out of the plastic and was like regretting it. Which was pretty cool. But no, the other thing is, like, I'm not a big Game of Thrones fan. Like, I watched the first 2 seasons back when they originally aired on HBO or whatever, and then I got, I think, 2 episodes into season 3, and fuck knows what was going on at that time of my life.
Yeah.
But I just kind of fell out of it. It didn't. I wasn't as completely enamored with it as a lot of people were, and I was just like, oh, like it's cool fantasy, but whatever. And then when you guys all sort of got into it, I'm like, well, the models look pretty cool, and there's a group of people playing it, and so that sort of ticks, 2 boxes that I need to have ticked to like put money into something.
Yeah.
So I'm like, cool, I'll do it. But one thing I've sort of found out now, like after having a bit of a look around over the last 24 hours, is there's a lot of stuff you can sort of do with your army. So like, I'm not interested in playing Lannisters or Starks so much.
Yep.
So what I've found is House Umber, which are like the barbarian guys from the north.
Yep.
So currently there's Big John, who I think's the head of the house. I don't know a whole lot of the lore of it, but I think he's the main guy.
Yeah.
And then they're bannermen for the Starks. So he's got berserkers and whatnot. So like that's how I want to like form my army, is like berserkers. They've got great axes coming out in the next little while, which are like anti-cavalry dudes. And then I'll chuck in some Stark stuff, but I don't really want an army led by Robb Stark or Ned Stark or anything like that.
Yeah,
so it's kind of cool that you've got that option. And then on the other side of things, like, you know, if I don't want to play Lannisters, you know, or like Lannister house proper, like there's a whole bunch of like other characters I could play. Like you could play as, I guess, like the Mountain, and, you know, you can just like hang out with a bunch of cavalry and those sort of things. And there seems to be like a lot of like viable armies is what I'm sort of trying to roundabout say, which is cool for somebody that, you know, maybe like you look at the main box, which just says like Stark versus Lannister, and you're like, oh, that's not really what I want. And I know they've got Night's Watch coming out.
Yep.
It's the next army. And then more armies after that, I'm sure. But it's kind of like for each army proper, you're going to have, 10 different ways to play them almost.
Yeah, they're a little bit, I guess, don't get the wrong idea, because I know it's quite a competitive game, but they're a little bit Horde's War Machine-y that way, in that the characters that you're dropping into your army are really what's majorly influencing the flavor of it.
Yeah, like it's
so
almost
there's not a huge number of units, right? So for the Lannisters, for example, you've got 3 different types of infantry and 1 cavalry, and then the characters you pepper in are what give them more oomph or more staying power or tactics.
Like I caught an interview or two with some of the developers. I think it was maybe Forge the Narrative or something like that, interviewed them a while ago. And that's what they were talking about, is the difference between having Robb Stark versus, God, I can't remember who the other one was. Like Robb Stark and somebody else in the army, and it's like you take the same army with exactly the same units in it, but they do completely different things. And if you try and do the same thing with the army, with this guy, they're going to get smashed. With this other guy, like it's the way they should be playing. So they have a chance, sort of thing. Which I like. I like that sort of complexity at that level.
Yeah,
where you can like build your list. Like, and I feel like that's what Games Workshop does a bit with 8th edition 40k.
Yeah, for sure.
Things like you want to be looking at what you're using your command points on for stratagems before you put stuff on the table.
Yep.
You know, and you can influence things like, you know, whether it's like just upgrading a guy to a chapter master or, you know, giving relics out and the rest of it. Like I like that, you know, it's just more interesting list building, I think.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
So that should be fun. What have you been up to apart from, you know, painting an entire Lannister army in 24 hours?
Mostly painting Lannisters. I got a bit excited. I pulled out, I mean, the Starks are like, you know, whatever, the Northerners, who cares really at the end of the day. King's Landing is where it is at, clearly. So I pulled out all of the Lannisters and put all the models in their movement trays and, you know, scattered all my characters around and stuff. And have been really enjoying both kind of reading the rules and trying to figure out what works, and looking at the models. And because I'm probably a bit more of a Game of Thrones fan than you, looking at characters that I've kind of, you know, followed through most of the TV series from my side of things, and just kind of getting excited about putting them on the table, which has been really cool.
Yeah, I saw your shit, I don't even know what he's called, Pycelle.
Yeah, Maester Pycelle.
Maester, that's right. Who's got the bright green poison? Yep. I'm guessing it's ear poison. Is this something rotten in the Kingdom of Denmark sort of ear poison, or are we?
Yep. Yeah, there's nothing particularly. I don't think I did anything particularly major with it. I think if I was going to do it 100% true to the character, particularly in the series, it'd probably just be wine. But I like the idea of having that green kind of poison counterpoint to the rest of his color scheme, because it's quite dull and drab and maestery.
Yeah. No, I like that, and I love the fact that it's actually General Veers from Star Wars.
Yes. Yeah. It's quite good.
Yeah. No, that just gets me every time somebody reminds me of that.
Yep. So I painted him. I've painted 12 Lannister Guard, which is a full squad. So just swords and shields.
Yeah, perfect.
A guard captain to go with them. I painted Littlefinger in the meantime, Peter Baelish.
Yeah. I did see that. I was going to ask you a question about his model because I haven't looked at those sort of ones, all the individuals yet. It looked like his glove was really small. He's got a hand out and it looks like really undersized. Was that a trick of the camera or is he supposed to have like a small hand or something?
Let me just find my picture of him again. It's mostly a trick of the camera on that one. Okay. His hands are fine. I think it's just because I photographed it at an angle where that hand is pretty much straight onto the camera.
Right. So he doesn't have like really small carny hands, and that's why I call him.
No, it's got a take a strong hand kind of thing. No, so that's okay. He's fine. Yeah, so I did him. Yes, okay.
This is what happens when people that don't watch Game of Thrones look at Game of Thrones miniatures and they're just like, Littlefinger, he has a small hand. Oh, that makes sense.
That intentional? Yeah. So it was good. And I started on Gregor Clegane, the Mountain That Rides, and Tywin Lannister as well, because Tywin is my favorite Lannister. And so pretty much every game, I think I'll be using him as my commander.
So what's he do for your army? Because he's kind of like, he's still the head of House Lannister, isn't he?
He starts the series as the head of House Lannister. Hopefully that doesn't spoil anything for anyone who hasn't seen season 4, maybe, or 5, or whenever that happens. Played by Charles Dance in the TV series, who is fantastic, and probably most of what he did in Tywin. But he had some interesting cards to your tactics deck that kind of give you a bit more oomph. And his special ability is actually nothing super special. So he gives the Lannister Supremacy special rule to a unit. But the tricky part is that there's a couple of units that already have it.
Right.
So really the aim is to add into a unit that normally wouldn't have it.
So like a mercenary unit, like...
No, more just, so the Lannister Guard all have it. The Knights have it, but the Halberdiers don't, for example. And the Crossbowmen don't.
So you're getting rid of those guys.
Halberdiers, and he's basically giving them a thing where if the Halberdiers pass their morale check at the end of the turn, the enemy then has to take a morale check because they haven't killed enough Lannisters, and now they're put off by the fact that there's still a giant wall of Lannisters between them and their objective.
That's kind of cool.
So, yeah, he's just a fun little force multiplier, I think.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And then Gregor is, as you'd expect, just a pain train.
Yeah. I imagine you're just supposed to... I imagine you just point him at shit and that just dies, right?
Well, it doesn't get an armor save against him, which is quite rare at the moment.
Okay.
So you run him at something and he's doing 4 attacks, hitting on 3s or something, and then just taking models off.
Yeah, very cool. And look, I do promise I will get a read-in of the rulebook before Friday, so I sort of understand it all the better.
It'll be learning for everyone, I think. So it won't be a serious game, but really, really straightforward from what I've read of the rules. Easy to get the hang of, but difficult to master. I guess a little bit 830 that way in Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
But still very Warhammer Fantasy Battles movement tray based kind of stuff where you're maneuvering and wheeling and all that sort of stuff.
I did, when I flicked through the rulebook that you get in the core set, which is kind of like a soft cover scaled down, like it's got all the rules in it, but I don't think it's got like all the lore and background that the big rulebook's got. There's a lot of pages showing you how to wheel units. So I don't know how I'm going to go with that, because I never enjoyed doing that in fantasy where you had to like reform your ranks and stuff.
Yeah.
So as long as it's none of that sort of bullshit, I'll be very happy.
It's not super granular, and it's very kind of loose. So it's not like a bad deployment will cost you the whole game.
Oh, no.
Which is good, because that has happened in fantasy quite often.
Oh, yeah. You deployed in front of the organ gun and cannon.
Yeah.
Remove this unit.
Yep, that's right. Cool.
Yeah. So anything else you've been up to? I noticed you were painting some more Armiger Helverins.
Yeah, so the Helverins that I bought in our last episode are now built and painted. How long ago did we record the last episode? Like a week ago?
Week and a half.
Yeah. So they're built, painted. I've just got to weather them and finish the basing. But then the Song of Ice and Fire Kickstarter came in and I got distracted. So nothing's happened with them. But they're cool. I bought a third one after reading the rules on our last cast as well. So I now have 3 Warglaves and 3 Helverins to go with my Knight Valiant. So that's a neat little swarm of knights that I can throw at something. Which will be good. So that's my 100 power level list. It's all of them plus some guardsmen to give me some command points.
Some command point farm, nice.
With a mortar battery in there somewhere.
Are they Urdeshi guardsmen?
No, I'm going to use the Rowing Deepers, I think, normally.
Okay.
So they'll just be kind of sitting in the back line somewhere holding objectives or something like that. Maybe Tanith occasionally. Maybe even some Volpone Blue Bloods, and I'll just run the Scions with them.
Yeah, that's not bad. But you can't farm the points with those guys, can you?
I should still be able to, but it's harder because they're worth more points and power level.
Yeah, you can't fit them in the detachment. Fair enough. No, that sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, well, what we might do is take a short break, which is YouTube live event code for we're going to mute our microphones for a few minutes. And then we will be back and we're going to dive into the erratas.
Sounds good. See you on the other side. And we're back.
Yeah.
Hello from the other side.
Very stealthy.
I thought so. Excellent. Well, we have talked hobby. We have talked. There's no real new stuff that's come out, has there?
Not too sure. Somebody said to me that they thought this weekend coming up was also like a Forge World Open Day weekend or something.
Was it?
Which I'm not too sure about, but I have seen somebody mention it.
Interesting.
So I'd imagine that maybe next episode there'll be a bit of news.
We'll have some more stuff to talk about. More doors.
Hopefully.
Great.
Hopefully. Yeah. One can hope for more doors.
Clearly the only thing keeping Heresy alive at the moment, right? All them vehicle doors.
The Kingdoms of Men.
Cool. Okay. Should we talk erratas?
We should. We've pussyfooted around for long enough.
We have.
Not wanting to talk about the biggest change of them all, and that is vehicle suffers the perils of the warp. It always experiences the psychic backlash as a result of the perils of the warp. So you've heard it here first, guys. Lots of psychic backlash for all your vehicles. All your Grey Knight Razorbacks with Cybolt. I mean, no, hang on, that's the wrong game.
Yeah. All of your Hemlock Wraith fighters that are all psychers, they have to wait. Hang on.
Did you ever play 40k in 5th edition when like a Grey Knight competitive army was just Razorback spam with Cybolt ammunition?
I sure did.
And how many Razorbacks did you own
in those days? Sorry.
And how many Razorbacks did you own?
You know, I've never actually owned a Razorback.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever owned one either.
Because when 5th Ed was around, I was playing Chaos.
Ooh.
And so I wished I had Razorbacks.
Ooh. Is that where the bitterness in the Iron Warriors playing came from, Doug?
Honestly, I am a Chaos player from the heady days of the 3.5 Codex.
Yeah, well, that's obviously where the Iron Warriors came from. Hey, I want a basilisk.
The classic kind of Chaos Bible, effectively. Yeah. Which meant that everything after that has just been bitter disappointment, which has been great for getting in character to play Iron Warriors.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Game Workshop, for some role-playing there.
That's right. It's been great. It's been some good forced role-playing. And then this FAQ just further enhances the role-play experience.
So look, I don't want to read through 30 pages of FAQ. I don't think anybody else needs us to read through
like
30.
Fun.
Well, that's the Iron Warrior in you, right?
That's right.
Actually, that sounds more like an Ultramarine or an Imperial Fist.
You take that back.
How's your grandmother?
What?
Gilliman.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. I'm too busy, like, murdering my stepsister. Read the Peter book. It makes a lot more sense. I'm not actually murdering. Anyway, it's fine.
So, I think if we just go through and pick a few things. So, if you want to start, what's your biggest errata, and why do you think it's? So, I think the way that we want to frame this is what we believe this means for 30k events and the community as a whole. Like, how's it going to change lists that we see all the time? How's it going to change the way we as EOs approach certain things, as opposed to just going, yay, psychic backlash is a thing.
Yeah.
Ordnance, you snapfire other stuff, and so on and so forth.
Yep.
So what's your biggest one?
My biggest one. I don't think I was ready for that question. I think for Space Marine players, like generic Legion sort of stuff.
Yep.
Legion champions having Paragon blades now is quite a shake-up.
Yep, so that's a Legion champion can take a Paragon blade for 20 points.
Yes. That will be interesting, mostly because it kind of opens up Praetor and 2 champions as kind of your default HQ, unless you've got a real plan for using the other ones.
You see, I've seen a lot of discussion of this today. Obviously, like there's threads already out there on Facebook with 500 comments on them and all sorts of stuff about the whole errata. But this is one that I like as well. The idea you can take the Paragon Blade on a Legion champion, but is it really any better than, say, a Legion champion running around with like a power fist or something like that, hidden in a unit with another character?
I mean, he's still weapon skill 6 and striking at initiative now.
Yeah, but was he really getting into situations previous to having a Paragon Blade where he was in challenges and things like so? Sorry, well, what I'm trying to get at is, like, whenever I've seen Legion champions used, they were always hidden in units so they couldn't get picked out by people with Paragon Blades.
Yeah, but I guess now they can do the picking out is kind of the thing.
Yeah.
It kind of flips them, like, because before they had access to Paragon Blades, they were basically just a more expensive Centurion.
Yeah.
Now they've got a better war gear option over a Centurion. So that kind of boosts them a bit.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, they're still paying 20 points for it, so, you know, it's probably not quite as terrible as some people are saying, but I think it's still something that's going to probably factor into people's building. Yeah. So, like, if you've got a spare HQ slot and an extra 100 or so points, you might throw a champion with a Paragon Blade in there rather than something else.
Fair enough. It's obviously it's sort of an under the table buff for a lot of Emperor's Children lists.
Yes,
very much so. Them, which is and I know from seeing Damien's comments today and a few other Emperor's Children's players that they're obviously pretty happy about it, because for a long time the Legion champion in, I think it's the Marascara lists.
Yeah.
Or is it I can't remember if it's a base Legion thing or Marascara, but it was a tax.
Yes.
It was a tax, and it was a case of, like, hide them in units, and yeah, if you manage to sort of mug somebody with them, you know, great.
Yep.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
So you reckon we'll see more Legion champions, like, just generally across the field?
I reckon where before you maybe by default saw something like a although I guess you weren't really seeing by default a whole bunch of Centurions, but I think the champion is now a good default option.
Okay, so you think that, like, he'll be up there with, like, say, the Master Signals?
Yeah, and unless you have a plan for someone like a Forge Lord or a Primus Medicae, you'll probably throw a champion in
instead. Okay,
I guess Chaplain is the other default, isn't he? Often.
Yeah, it is. Actually, he
give you Zealot and what have you.
Yeah. Actually, that's another point. It's right underneath here on the champion, is that you cannot replace a Crozius Arcanum with any other weapon.
That's fine. The bigger thing is that it now replaces his chainsword.
Hang on, I didn't even read that. It replaces their chainsword or combat weapon.
So once upon a time, it was in addition, which is where you got chaplains with a power weapon, which they couldn't replace, which was their Crozius, and a power fist, because they were just replacing their chainsword with it.
Yep, right, okay.
Whereas now they've got a...
Yeah, okay, because the way that I read this entire thing is basically the weapon he's got is a Crozius, and that's what you're getting. You're not giving him anything else.
Yeah, but he can still pick what type of weapon that is. Axe, sword.
Axe, maul, or sword, I guess.
Spear. If you want to, go the full whack route and take a power spear.
Yeah.
No, clearly they're broken. They're not, by the way. If you want to take a power spear, take a power spear. It's fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, look,
what was one of your big ones, or your biggest one?
Well, my biggest one, and this shouldn't be any shock to anybody anywhere in the world that's ever heard of us, or the sort of controversy that we caught on a daily basis. And that is that Veteran Tactics, in the Veteran Tactics box out, replaced the bullet point Marksman with the following: Stalkers, the unit gains a scout special rule. So outflanking sniper vets for Legion veteran squadrons are gone.
Yep.
Completely just removed from the game, taken out. Obviously, Forge World's are listening to us. God knows why. That's not the way to do things, Forge World. Don't fucking listen to us. But no, obviously, the community the community was calling out for a bit of action on that. I think there was like two schools of thought on like the laziness of fucking marksman vets, and that was people that knew it was lazy and called it out for being lazy, which we did constantly, and still use them because they were the best fucking choice in the world if you were going to take vet squads.
Yeah.
And then the people that just lied to everybody about them not being bullshit choices that just were Swiss Army knives that cost no fucking points, and just raped everything they fucking dealt with. So I think this is, and look, I think it's actually going to be a fairly large change for the game. Like I look at a lot of lists from like the Warhammer World events.
Yeah.
Like I always see those lists do the rounds. Don't ask me why, but I always seem to get my hands on those lists. You know, whether they're, you know, lists from up in Sweden, you know, our own events and things like that. You'll always see lists in there that rely at some level on Pride of the Legion.
Yep.
And you'll have like Pride of the Legion was code for I'm running 30 marksman vets and fuck you.
Yeah, why would you ever run any other kind of veteran, right? Like marksman was always the best option.
Yeah, I always love it. Is it you and Rob that talk about machine hunters all the time for veterans?
Yeah, machine hunters, or the big game one where they get monster hunter.
Yeah. Things like that. Like I see pop up occasionally, but no, it's always. It was
Well, I mean, you'd never see that one. The one you'd see would be the weapon skill one, maybe if you're doing like a world leaders themed army. But you know, normally most of the world leader vets are apparently snipers and outflanking anyway.
So yeah, no, that's interesting. Like I also think that it was rather strange what they decided to change about it, giving you scout, which is cool. Like I actually think veterans with scout's not a bad idea.
No, it sounds great.
You know, like I think we'll see a little bit of it, but I just think we're going to be seeing less veterans overall. Like they're no longer just an auto include, which is great. Like I like our issue with it was always that it was just poor, lazy game design. That just resulted in poor, lazy army list design. But hey, you know, good. That's been changed. I'm glad that we've finally had a positive influence somewhere on Forge World, which is good. You know, no applause, just send money. We'll give you a PayPal address.
Then write your thanks on the back of a $50 note and send it to you.
Yeah, that's it. Don't send it with a hate mail to Rob. Your next one, Doug?
I feel like most of my ones are now just me getting salty about things.
Well, that's what I was hoping.
Okay, great, good. I'll just embrace the inner Iron Warrior then. So just kind of scrolling down the list, what else have we got? Okay, so this one's not me being salty. This is a bit of a I'm glad it's happened. But the Apothecarian detachment clarification that they don't give out victory points and they're not counted as a separate unit. They're just not a separate unit. They're just part of whatever squad they're in. Stop your bitching. Just kill the tactical squad.
Oh my god, we've gone backwards and forwards on this ruling more than I think any other ruling in the game ever.
Yep.
I remember having incredibly heated discussions with Steve actually over whether there was kill points or no kill points for apothecaries, and it was, so no, that's been finally clarified. Thank you, Fordron. That's good.
There's a nice little one about the augury scanner, I noticed.
Yeah. So the augury scanner is the thing that you can give to, is it heavy weapon squads? No, sorry. Apothecaries.
Pick it up. But heavy weapons can take them.
Yeah.
Apothecaries can take them. Basically, all of the ranged weapons in the unit gain interceptor now, rather than, was it just heavy before, and was it just within like 18 inches or something?
Yeah, I think it was.
Basically just opened it up.
Like that, yeah.
Which is, I think, is fine.
I'm just going to point out, I don't think I've ever seen an augury scanner used.
Really? I use them all the time. You're clearly not playing me enough.
Well, no.
Because I give them to a unit which now no longer works because of the next one I'm going to talk about, and this is where the salt begins. But basically it gave me Iron Circle with Interceptor.
Ah, okay, right. And now you don't even have Iron Circle with Feel No Pain.
Yeah,
because,
which is
because
really fucking shitty.
and
Oh well, I guess I'll just have to do Iron Circle with a librarian in the middle, psychic shrieking shit out of the sky.
so
Upset.
yeah, so Narthoseums, which is the apothecaries like med pack. For Legion Apothecaries, the Feel No Pain it confers now only confers to Legion as starters units. So you have to have the Legions as starters special rule to get Feel No Pain from it. So your Iron Circle don't get it, and your Primarchs don't get it. If you could somehow get a Custodes dude in there, he doesn't get it. Sisters of Silence don't get it. Solar Hogs don't get it.
That screws over. No, that's disappointing. Sorry. Army of Dark Compliance, right? You take a Primus Medicae, you attach that Primus Medicae to a 50-man levy squad, and that levy squad used to have Feel No Pain, no longer.
Yeah, so you can't do any of that. They only know how to work on Space Marines, apparently. Bullet holes are different, depending on what they hit. I don't know.
I guess people break differently. Like, mortals break differently to transhumans.
Yeah. Oh, look, I guess at the end of the day, there is like a lot of fluff given over to the fact that, you know, like when Horus gets stabbed, right?
Yeah,
nobody knows what's going on. Like nobody has any idea about Primarch physiology because it's just some completely different, and everyone's completely different to each other.
Yep, and they're normally healing pretty much straight away anyway, so nobody's really had to put the work in, except for Fabius apparently. So I'm waiting for the Fabius character to come out, who will be able to give Feel No Pain to
Primarchs. Yeah, that's
cool. But so that will be good. So keen for a Fabius. Look, I would go back to my Emperor's Children list if there were a Fabius special character in a heartbeat.
100%, man. Like reading those Fabius books just to get us off track again, because I'm sort of halfway through Clone Lord at the moment. Like holy shit! Like I want to go back and restart my Emperor's Children 40k army.
Right.
Like so, but at the same time, like all the Emperor's Children in those books are just fucking idiots.
Yeah.
Like you hate them so much, but at the same time, you're like, yeah, I could do an army of them.
That's right. I see the appeal.
Those guys, yeah. Like you want a Fabius, right? Because Fabius is just king shit, and you want, you know, a random World Eater guy, and a random Grave Warden dude who's got a pet Nurgle dog.
The word bearer trying to solve the ticking time bomb in his chest all the time.
Yeah. You want a Diabolist just hanging out with them. And then you want, like, you know, a bunch of fucking, like, human guys that are a bit stronger than humans are.
Yep.
Have, like, preferred enemy Space Marine or something.
Yes, that would be so good.
And then you want, like, this insane batshit fucking Thunderhawk that has a mind of its own.
Oh, the Butcher Bird.
Yeah, the fucking Butcher Bird.
Thunderhawk?
I don't know. I think
imagining it as like a Storm Eagle or a Storm Bird or something. Maybe. But I can't imagine Fabius keeping a Storm Bird in working order. Storm Eagle, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a Storm Eagle suits it. Because, like, Storm Birds, and I think the bit when Eidolon turns up with a Storm Bird.
Yeah.
It's to do with it being, like, the biggest craft that's used to hangar on the Salius or whatever these ships called for ages.
That's right. When he comes in with his and has to do the measuring contest.
Yeah, and then you just want like a unit of like noise marines, like cacophony somewhere.
Yes.
But the rest is just fucking chaff. Like, who gives a shit about the actual Emperor's Children guys? They're all fucking scum.
Yeah, that's right. It's clearly the characters that are there that make that.
Actually, you know what would be perfect then, and actually something that we should have talked about in the top of this episode.
Yes.
Kill team.
Ooh.
Fabius Bile kill team.
Tempting. Very tempting. Just doing like all the apothecaries and stuff.
Yeah. Just do all the apothecaries, and then like obviously like you wouldn't use it as a normal kill team. Like you'd have it specifically for like a narrative campaign of the Fabius stuff. And you can have him like against Harlequins, Elder Corsairs, other Space Marines, demons. Like that'd work perfectly, right?
Yeah, that would be really good. Don't put those ideas in my head, because then I'll go and do them.
Yeah, that'd be.
Are you up to the bit in that book yet where you find out what happened to the Emperor's Children gene seed? Like before the Great Crusade?
Oh, no. So I'm up to the bit where I'm just trying to work out what's not going to spoil anything for people that haven't read it. I'm up to the bit where they've just been released by Eidolon to go and find it.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yep.
Yeah, and he's spending a lot of time in his secret laboratory for reasons.
Fabius?
Yep.
That's right. Yep.
Cool.
That makes sense. Actually, speaking of Kill Team and new things that are coming out, have we talked about Warhammer 40,000 Monopoly?
Have we just given up on doing the errata now?
All right, we should go back to the errata. I'm trying to get away from being a salty fuck about everything else, but I can be salty if you want.
Yeah, look, let's smash the errata, and we'll add a thing to talk about Monopoly at the end, and a little bit more on Kill Team. So what we're saying is the Narthasium only affects Space Marines now.
Yeah,
that should put to bed a few discussions I've seen over the past few weeks, actually, about whether you can whack them in with Primarchs and give them feel no pain. Not that I ever thought that was particularly a bullshit thing to do. Like it never came up in our group, like in our events and things like that. Like people have done it, but it's never been a problem, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's ever walked away from a table going, "Oh, it's so fucking insane that Angron's got feel no pain from this guy," or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Feel no pain.
He's probably got his own feel no pain. I can't remember. Yeah. So.
Yep. The tricky part was that it always only ever had in its entry on the in the war gear section that, what was it, Space Marine units or units from the Space Marine army list, or I think it was Space Marine units. And so the whole question was, well, what's a Space Marine unit?
Yeah,
okay. A unit that has Space Marine in the title, because then Terminators don't get it. Is it a unit that is a Space Marine? Well, where do you draw that line? Is it a unit that's in that army list, in which case Primarchs and Iron Circle get it? So now they've just pinned it down to Legionis Astartes.
Yeah, well, you see, like that's obviously like something, when you look at 8th edition and you look at the way that like keywords and things like that work, like it's something like that could solve a lot of heresy problems, actually.
Yeah,
if you had like keyword systems and whatnot. But hey, good. Okay, so now we're on to the Iron Warriors part of things. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, this is okay. I would drop into like full tilt Alex Jones, globalist conspiracy sort of stuff, but honestly, I'm tired of being the heel of the entire Horus Heresy. Just let me have nice things, please.
Like, people don't even rip on word bearers as much as you guys get ripped on these days.
I feel like word bearers, when they are ripped on harder. But ours is much like in the Horus Heresy, the Iron Warriors just get a steady stream of bullshit.
Yeah, fair enough.
Whereas Lorgar, when people remember to hate him, they hate him intensely. But they don't often remember to, whereas we just get like a callous disregard because clearly Dawn's the favorite.
This is really eating you up inside, isn't it? Like,
it's a little.
People think this is like some sort of like podcast joke thing that we have going on. No. This is actually the real dog. This is behind the curtain dog.
Okay. Here we go. Tyrant Siege Terminators, definitely heavy support. That's fine. I don't care. I already knew that. I know something. Did we ever actually have to have that discussion? Like, they got changed ages ago to heavy support. They did, but then I think it was the Red Book, they were listed as heavy support, but I think the little picture that had their battlefield role was still the Elites one, or something like that.
Oh, really? Huh.
There was some kind of printing error that meant that every single rules lawyery, Iron Warriors player, which is all of us, jumped on it and went, well, clearly they're still elites, right? So we can still run them as troops in Pride of the Legion. But you're right in that was never the case. They've been heavy for ages. But it does sting a little that they've been kicked to heavy support and not given Implacable Advance in the same FAQ where Sekhmet were given Implacable Advance.
Yeah. I see. This is one of the things that just gets me about Forge World when they do erratas.
Mm-hmm.
And it always just brings home to me the fact that they're not Games Workshop and they are a smaller team, and there's not a problem with that, but it just means you're going to be doing so many more erratas, or you should be doing more erratas than what Games Workshop is doing. Is there a reason that's a balance reason for that? That if they gave them Implacable Advance, that they become so much better than Sekhmet or something like that? Like, or have you just forgotten to give it to everybody and we're going to have another errata in a week's time? It's like, oops, we fucked up here. Iron Warriors have.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that always gets me, is that still with Forge World stuff, they haven't quite gotten themselves to the point that Games Workshop spent the last 18 months to 2 years doing with us, which is rebuilding a lot of the trust that when they write something, we generally have an idea of why they've done that.
Yep.
And like, I think somebody said there might be a Twitch stream or there might be something coming up, but we never get them because we're on the wrong side of the disc. So unless you want to stay up to 3 a.m. in the morning, we don't get to listen to the fucking things. Yeah. But if somebody wants to let us know if there's a discussion on that on a Twitch stream somewhere, that would be good to know, because at the moment, you're right, it feels like it's a bit forgotten.
Yep. So, but that's fine. That's not even the worst part. It just keeps coming. Perdurabo himself got some FAQs. I noticed that Dawn didn't get any of his rules changed on the next page, just quietly, but that's fine too. Okay, Perdurabo's Relentless Strategist special rule got hit relatively hard. So all models in the same army as Perdurabo gain... Oh, actually, is that a slight buff? Is that a slight buff? It is not. It's exactly the same. That's a shame. So models in his army get Furious Charge in an enemy's deployment zone. Cool, whatever. This is the part that's changed, though. If Perdurabo is held in reserve, he may choose the turn in which he and any unit to which he is attached arrive from reserve, starting from the first turn of the game rather than the second. So once upon a time, the second sentence of that rule read, any army with Perdurabo as its warlord may, if wished, begin rolling for reserves from the first turn of the game rather than the second.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was always, yeah. Like, it was incredibly good, and it allowed all sorts of, well, no, it really didn't allow shenanigans. People took it as a license to do shenanigans.
Yeah.
So no, that's probably...
It basically made a Terminator teleport assault army that functioned not quite like a drop pod army, but had the opportunity to.
You know who does a really good Terminator teleport assault army, Rite of War?
Fuck
Imperial
off.
Fists.
Get out of my house. Back your shit up. I'm not talking to you ever again. It's fine. Whatever. They get all the toys, and we still broke their damn walls down on Terra. So whatever. It's fine.
Did you hear that their Tartarus guys can now actually have storm shields for realsies?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
It's fine. Whatever. Because, clearly the Iron Warriors wouldn't invent giant shields or anything. It's not like we've built them into giant robots.
No. That's
really just can't miniaturize that technology and give it to Terminators. Whatever. It's fine.
So Tormentor, which was Perdurabo's ride, you can now only use it in games of 3,001 points or more. I've never seen anybody run him in Tormentor. Like, I haven't even seen...
You really don't play me at all, then.
When have you ever run him in Tormentor?
I ran Tormentor in... Was it last year's event series?
Really?
When I went back to Iron Warriors for a bit. I never put Perdurabo in it.
Oh, okay.
That's a waste of Perdurabo. But it's a way to get Perdurabo and a Shadow Sword into an army. Yeah. No, fair enough. Although I noticed that Tormentor is now 600 points, which I think is a slight bump in points from where it used to be. And can no longer be upgraded. Or it's always been a bit up in the air as to whether it can be upgraded with stuff or not.
Well, actually, this would fall under the new rules. Well, the new errata that's further down that talks about can you give war gear upgrades to like named characters and unique things.
The problem was it was never actually a unique vehicle. It was just a shadow sword with extra stuff.
Ah, right. So it is now unique.
Now it's a unique vehicle. So I wouldn't have added anything to it if it was presented as is now. But before it was just, it's a shadow sword and it has a void shield and it has a transport capacity of 15.
Yep, and it can fire all of its weapons at a single target and gain Tank Hunter and Monster Hunter.
Yeah, don't get me started on that either. Fucking hell. Because it used to just, I think from memory, it used to just have Tank Hunter, or it didn't have it at all, and that was fine.
Right.
The problem with that is it's got twin-linked heavy bolters.
Yeah, it's got a lot of them. It's got 3 of them. It's got 3 twin-linked heavy bolters. It's good. They're your tracer rounds.
Yeah, clearly.
See, I'm fluffing this for you. I'm trying to make it a softer landing.
What? But Perturabo is the Siege Lord. Why would he shoot heavy bolters at a fucking tank? And why, for the love of God, does Tormentor not have shrapnel bolts in its fucking heavy bolters? Literally the only thing the Iron Warriors have for like their heavy weapon sets is shrapnel bolts, and we don't have any.
Yeah.
And Perturabo is still the only Primarch who has, like, who doesn't have a non-unwieldy option for his weapons.
I knew that was going to come up at some point. So is there any more salt that you need to deliver at the moment?
I mean, not for Iron Warriors, but there is more salt. My one consolation is that the Atos Dios, Rogel Dawn's bullshit ghetto wagon, Legion Thunderhawk with its various shit, is also 3,001
points. Yeah. Yeah, no, I did say that.
So at least they were consistent with that. I was expecting them not to be, but I'm glad that they were consistent.
Yeah, but Tormentor can't fly.
No, that's true. But it is a shadow sword.
Okay, one of the other big changes that we've seen, and once again, like I'm trying to pick stuff that I know there is a lot of vigorous community conversation about and has been over the past few years. So Spearhead Centurion, Castrum and Orth, it's now written into law that he can be in a super heavy vehicle.
Yeah,
as long as the front armor is at least 13. So there was always a lot of debate over that. I know the good lads over at Radio Free Istvan bought this one up a long time ago. Like I think this made it onto the cake, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Into Forge World. So that's very cool. Expect him to be in all sorts of things from Malcadors to. Actually, would his Shadow Sword be better than Tormentor?
Fuck off.
Because it could outflank, couldn't it?
Shut up.
Which isn't as good as flying, which Rogel Dawns can do, but
I'm not talking to you anymore.
It's almost as good.
It's fine.
That's cool.
No. I didn't want to take Tormentor anyway. I'll just take more Iron Circle.
Okay. What else?
So hang on. Does No, that's disappointing. I was just checking the rule book to see if super heavy walkers were a subset of super heavy vehicles.
No, they're completely
different, like a warlord or something. Just for funsies.
Put him in a Porphyrin or something like that. Actually, it's probably worth at this point, and I know we have one very dedicated listener out there that likes talking about the Panoply of War. It's now actually had a whole lot of things added to it, which is the Knight Paladin, Knight Errant, Knight Warden, Knight Gallant, Knight Crusader, Knight Dominus, Knight Lances, Knight Castigator, Knight Acheron, Knight Porphyrin. All the following units in the army list taken, in all cases, remove the household rank special rule.
Yeah.
So that just, I think, tidies a few things up for people if they were ever worried about not being allowed to take certain knights.
Yes. Yeah. So you can take any knight now.
Yeah, which is very cool.
Yep.
Anything else in here that jumps out to you, Doug?
Where are we up to? We're up to all the other little bits and pieces.
Oh well, there's no more debates about World Eaters having to buy chain swords and then buy other things after it and all sorts of shit. If it's got a chain sword or a close combat weapon or a power weapon, it can have a chain axe for free.
Yep.
Good stuff.
As long as you model it.
Yep.
Yeah, there's nothing really else for the Marines, is there?
No, I think that's like I think that's it. There's a few other things in there. I think Lorgar, Vulcan, and Conrad got some small tweaks to them.
Yeah. Well, Conrad got hit and run, so that's nice.
Yeah. One thing there, and the last one here for what is basically the Space Marine section, is Strike Captain Alvarez Morn, who's the Raven Guard guy that's all about drop pod assaults.
Yeah.
You have to add, if Strike Captain Morn enters play in a vehicle with the drop assault rule, he has to be on the first game turn. And you can't bring him in a termite with subterranean assault.
Yep.
Which is, the second line there is just obviously law, like they use drop pods, not termites to do this stuff, so that's fair enough. Yep. And bringing him on the first game turn, I think, is actually kind of the opposite to what a lot of people were doing with him. So that might change if people were running those sort of lists. And I know once upon a time it was a very popular one. Like I even wrote a few lists that were Raven Guard lists with Morn, heading them up, that had all sorts of drop pods and whatnot in it. And dropping him first turn was not a particularly great idea. So you now have to. Yep. Okay, so moving on to the Crusade Imperialis army list.
Yeah.
So this is basically Solar Ogs, Cults, and Militia.
Yeah.
So obviously the big one, and I'll let you deal with it, is
Survivors of the Dark Age, right? No. That one's worth talking about too. But the big one is that Cult Horde has been adjusted.
Adjusted down.
Yeah. So rather than getting Zealot, which is what you used to get, and all of the other bits and pieces, now it's got all of the other stuff which nobody ever really cares about or reads, and Hatred and Stubborn instead. So they're no longer fearless, instead they're stubborn.
Yep. So massive change.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's fine.
Yeah, look, I have always felt that fearless, that out of the things that get stacked onto Cult Horde, right?
Yep.
Rending, Hatred, Fearless. Was there anything else?
Feel no pain.
Feel no pain.
Can only snap shoot.
Benefit-wise, though, like the one thing that would but the one thing that I think would make it a better army was just tweaking one of them, and they've decided to do it with Fearless.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is a particularly bad thing. Like, the reality is, I don't care how good your custodes are. If they're rending with Hatred, you know, like, you're still going to kill a bunch of Golden Boys. You're still going to murder a bunch of Space Marines, right? Like,
pretty much.
I don't think it's neutered them. Yeah, their leadership 7. Is there any way to boost their leadership?
Characters?
Yeah.
But the tricky part is, as long as you're running Tainted Flesh, which is the other one that gives them rending and feel no pain, they can only take Force Commanders and Rogue Psychers.
Okay.
So you can't, for example, take a bunch of Discipline Masters who you'd normally put in those units to keep them going.
Boost them up, yeah.
Instead, you've got to kind of split out your Rogue Psyker or your Force Commander or someone like that, which is fine because they're all 8 or whatever. Which honestly doesn't give them much of a boost.
Well, they go from 7 to 8, and I was having a look at this today. So on 2 dice, 7 is the most frequently rolled number, right?
Yeah.
So you'll pass the most frequently rolled combination, which I think is 16.8% of dice rolls. with 2 die is 7, so you'll be passing it, and obviously you pass it on everything up to and 7.
Yep.
So it's not fearless, obviously. Anything that now makes you actually take a leadership test or possibly just, piss off the board is going to be different. And then obviously for yourself, running the levies the way that you do,
yep,
board space and then being able to run away is going to be as big an issue now as obviously being chased down and just wiped out completely.
Yep. I mean, honestly, one of my biggest problems with this adjustment is that now I've got to move my levies in another phase.
That's very true.
If I fail a morale test, I've then got to take 40-something levies that are left, or 30-something levies that are left in a squad and move them.
Yeah, and especially if they're all spread out to be, deal with templates and the rest of it. So, I
mean, like I said, it's fine. I'm leadership 7, so it's not the end of the world. I'd still fight custodians with it.
Yeah. Like I don't think I think there are people out there that play this sort of cult army, right?
Yep.
And once again, there's always a few people that go to the 30k events of Warhammer World.
Yeah.
And run just all of these. And when you see photos of it, they're all dressed like Cadians or Kadashans.
Yeah. And they're all based slightly differently to each other.
Yeah. And they're all running Cult Horde and Tainted Flesh.
Yep.
And they never finish games and all this sort of stuff. And the sort of person that does that is a very distinct type of person compared to yourself, who has put more time and effort into their army than just about anybody else that I know puts into their armies.
What are you talking about? Aren't you listening to the internet? I'm clearly the king of whack. Daring to run 300 militia.
But the fact that your 300 militia are militia, first and foremost, they're painted, they're all different. They're based on different gods. They've got different chant. It's a very different experience playing that to playing somebody who's just rolled up wanting to just try and win an event with an extreme list, like a meta-breaking list sort of thing.
Yep.
And then obviously the consistency with which you play them as well is, I feel, a very, very puts you in a different basket, basically. It's the same as I've never had a problem with custodes, whether they're kicking my face in or kicking their face in or watching them get their asses handed to them or whatever it is. I don't have a problem with custodes. What I have a problem with is somebody that just wants to win games and believes that custodes and hater on guard everywhere is the way to do it.
Yep.
Whereas I've had conversations with people that were running 2 shield captains with 2 3+ rerollables, and there were damn good reasons that was in the list. Was it hardcore? Would I ever do it myself? No, probably not. But the amount of effort that the person had put into the fluff in the background, and it wasn't just I want to be a dickhead, so I'm going to come up with a reason. It was no, there is a incredibly good reason for it. This is why I'm doing it. They didn't start off that way. It's over the course of a campaign that this has happened.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, I think one of them got stepped on by a fucking Titan or something. I'm not too sure what happened, but that's different once again. And I think it goes back to the heart of very few people have any idea what whack actually means. Almost nobody in this community has any idea what whack means. Just it gets the moment somebody's oh, I want to run Primarch's Chosen. Well, obviously everything's whack. That's Primarch's Chosen. The moment
what have you got? 60 vets, 4 quad mortars.
But the conversations that you and I kept seeing over the last few weeks about Warhounds.
Oh yeah.
Which is just blows my mind, right? That anybody thinks that
not a powerful choice.
Yeah, that anybody thinks a single Warhound at 3,000 points that you need to send some sort of footman to your opponent weeks in advance with a silver platter and basically serve them with notice that the the noble war machine of Legio Mortis Warhound is going to be on the tabletop with a mega bolter and a plasma blast gun. Are you fucking kidding me? There is absolutely nothing gamey about a Warhound at 3,000 points. And if you can't kill a Warhound at 3,000 points, fuck, I don't know. I don't want to know what's going on with your list.
That's right. If you can't either kill it or have a way to not care that it's there, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So for example, my militia list, I don't think I'd be able to kill a Warhound with just masked levies. But
but you just ignore it.
Exactly right. It can, well, I might have to think about it now that I'm only stubborn and not fearless, but I could quite happily just run around the table, and as long as I still had, a few guys at the end of the, like, you can't kill 300 cultists in 6 turns, even with good shots on double turbo laser Warhounds.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's not going to trump your army, sort of thing.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. I think, is it the independent characters? I feel like we talk about them a lot, but they make good points. Narrative gaming is fine, but at the end of the day, we are playing a game, and everybody wants to win more games than they lose. So you can't just say, this is my narrative list, and this is all I'm ever playing because this is what my narrative is. Because if you've chosen shitty units, and then you play those shitty units in a way that is not conducive to the way the game works, you're just going to get shitty about those shitty units.
Yeah. Like, from personal experience, for years, and I've talked about it before, I used to run inquisitorial stormtroopers.
Yeah.
And a whole, I had a 2,000 or 2,500 point army that was just demon hosts, inquisitors, radical inquisitors with death cult assassins, and fucking stormtroopers and rhinos, because it was just this is a really cool idea, and it was a cool theme, and it had all sorts of stuff, and I had little backstories for everybody in it. I played those. I played them every single game for nearly 2 years back in 4th edition, I think it was.
Yep.
Didn't win a single game, and that was back when I was probably getting 3 games a week through different through different means, about 3 games a week, right? So that's about 100. Let's say conservatively, let's say 120 games a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
For a few years there, I was playing a lot of 40k. I never won a game with them. And I refuse to change the list. I refuse to, do things I wouldn't even switch the rhinos to chimeras, right?
Yeah,
because
sure.
there was a reason that they were rhinos, right? They had been stolen by one of the inquisitors, and they hadn't stolen chimeras; they'd stolen rhinos, right?
Yep.
I loved playing that army, right?
Yeah.
But it does take its toll on you. And when I eventually put that army down, it got sold. I didn't want it. I didn't want it in my collection. Most of those inquisitors ended up in my bits box, chopped up for different things. It had just run its life out.
Yeah.
And I couldn't win games with it. The reality of it was that, you had this was before stormtroopers had AP3 weapons.
Yep.
So it was just a stormtrooper that I think had a strength 4 last gun that cost 4 points more than a tactical marine did.
Yeah, that's the one. Classic.
Yeah, and they didn't, and they all had grenade launchers and flamers.
Yep.
Because trying to find dudes with plasma guns and melter guns was almost impossible.
Yeah.
So there were certain things, but you're exactly right. Narrative has narrative and whack, right? If they're going to be 2 ends on a spectrum, narrative and whack, it doesn't really have that much to do with list creation. You can have a hard list that's a narrative list. I was saying this to somebody the other day, an Ironfire list that has all the Medusas, all the quad guns, all of that sort of stuff is incredibly fluffy.
That's a narrative Ironfire list, yeah.
That's it. And that's how Iron Warriors work.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
I should do that next. Maybe that's my
a Blood Angel list where the entire army is mounted in Storm Eagles, Assault Rams, and stuff like that. And then you've got a couple of units of dudes coming down with jump packs, right? Because they're coming out of high altitude Stormbirds and things like that. Is a narrative list. Is it a hard list? Yes. Yes, it is. If you're putting down 3, 4, 5 flyers on a table. That's a hard list, right?
Yeah, for sure.
People are going to look at that list and be like, oh, shit. Like, there are lists that are hard that are incredibly narrative. I feel that, like, if the point of the list is to remove the opponent from the game so they can't impact things, if the point of the list is to slow the game down so you can't finish the game, if the point of the list is to remove all of those sort of things from your opponent's ability to play the game, that's a whack list. So like people that take Cultic Horde and Tainted Flesh and do it in a way that is just flood the board, don't give a shit about the army, and then only get to turn 2.
Yep.
You know, like, it's the way the list is played, it's the personality of the person standing at the table and the way they play the game. That's what whack is, right? If somebody turns up to the game and they're, you know, intentionally picking dice up too fast so you can't read them. You know? So, like, I'm not saying like outright cheating, because I think cheating is different from whack again.
Yes,
but doing things like that, having little, you know, things in there that just make the experience a bad experience, right? That's what's whack. Lists on their own, I don't feel, can be whack. You can't look at a list in a vacuum, and I think that's what a lot of this community does. Yes. And you don't see it as much in other Games Workshop games. Like, are there hard lists? Like, people look at things like, say, the Imperial Guard Battalion Farm, right? For command points. But nobody goes, that's whack.
No.
Nobody thinks that's whack. People just go, right, okay, it's a battery. What's it going with? How's it being used? How's it being played on the table? And then that comes back, like, that's where it is.
Yep.
Whereas if that sort of thing existed in the 30K community, like, Jesus Christ. Like,
could you imagine?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you get right on the top of it. And I think the problem is that the moment anything looks slightly scary, people just jump on it and they're like, oh, it's whack. The reality is you're playing a game about the most brutal warfare between the most brutal armies you can possibly imagine. Like, when they went to Istvan, they didn't go, oh, hang on, no, we're not going to load the Bane Strike rounds.
That's right. No, that would be whack. We should clearly just drop down with that 20-man tactical squads and nothing else.
Yeah, like, and the best games I have played in 30K, the best games I have watched in 30K worldwide, right?
Yeah,
are the ones where people turn up with narrative lists that are hard, that aren't gimped, like that they aren't like I've gimped Death Guard lists before by taking a bunch of 5-man heavy weapons, like, you know, 5 auto cannons over here, 5 plasma cannons over there, and then just being like, oh yeah, I've got 500 points in fucking heavy weapon squads that are all 5-man squads. Like, that's not fun.
No.
You know, it's not fun, it's not narrative, anything like that, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with going, well, I'm playing Death Guard, I've got, you know, I'm playing a reaping list.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take some Phosphex quad mortars. There's nothing wrong with that.
Makes sense to me.
That's actually what the Death Guard guys would do. There's nothing wrong with looking at an Iron Warriors list and going, well, I want some Medusas, I want some artillery, because these guys are going to go and break down fucking gigantic walls and palaces on Terra.
Yep.
Like, fuck.
Yeah, and I think this is the thing, right? Like, there's this weird thing where some, not all, hashtag not all narrative gamers, some narrative gamers feel like to be narrative, you have to ignore the rules. If you know what I mean, like, you have to ignore the rules potential of units, or actively work against the rules potential of units, which is not the case.
Yeah. Kind of where, if, like, you know, if you ever, heaven forbid, comboed a unit and a character, that it's
yeah. How dare you?
Yeah. No. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think.
And yet, interestingly enough, most narrative players I know were quite happy with 30 sniper vets.
Oh yeah.
Bizarrely enough, But you know what I mean? Like, and then those narrative players look at people perhaps a little further along the spectrum, kind of probably where I am, where you're building lists that take into account the rules of the game and are trying to not bend them, but use them effectively to tell the story that you want to tell. In my case, you know, an unwashed horde of people rising up against their former masters and just drowning the stars in a sea of blood. Yeah, so they look at my end of the spectrum and go, well, that's whack. I'm like, well, no, you're just standing way too far down the narrative end of the spectrum. Stand where I am and look further out towards the whack end, and you'll see that there are people far worse than me. And then if I went to there and looked out, there'd probably be people further out still.
Yeah, and I think as I was saying, you know, like it's the lists in looking at the lists in vacuums. I think it's so dangerous to just assign things to it. I think if you look at the person behind the list and the objectives for it, and like that's the reason why in the past, like, you know, we have looked at things and gone, oh, yeah, I'm not particularly happy about that, because, you know, when you have a conversation with the person, and like I'm constantly talking to people about lists. Like, we run events, we get people emailing and messaging us all the time, right? So if somebody sends me a message and they go, I feel like I didn't win any games last event, I want to win some games this event, can you take a look at my list and tell me what it's like? And you look at the list and you can see that, you know, it's a better list than they had last time. Like, that's not somebody being whack, right? Somebody going, well, you know, I wouldn't mind winning a game. That's not whack. Right. Whereas if you have a conversation with somebody where they've gone, I've had this insane idea, bear with me, I'm going to fuck the meta, and I'm just going to break everything wide open, and the only reason I'm doing this is because I'm bored and I just want to fuck with people.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Now, if that's how your conversation with me starts, which funnily enough, a lot of conversations with me start that way.
I feel like that's just because you're talking to Rob all the time, though.
Yeah. Look, I didn't want to name Rob, and now we've dragged him into this. I feel bad for him. But if that's the way you're writing a list, right, that's probably going to be closer to being a whack list than somebody who just naturally evolves into a stronger list as they see where the gaps in their force is from previous events. And that's one of the really interesting things. And I've never seen somebody run a 30k escalation campaign like we're running at the moment with Stygian Abyss.
Yep.
And I think, and we saw it a bit from the wider community, aka the people that don't actually come to events and just sit on the internet, where people were like, oh my God, you can't do an escalation event for Heresy because that means people want to win games.
I mean,
and it was like, oh shit, okay, no, you're right. That wasn't that wasn't the response. The response was everybody knew it was an escalation campaign when we wrote that on the beginning of the players pack and the event invite. And then the people that turned up wanted to play escalation and are really happy with it and are loving it. But that's what you expect from these armies that are evolving over 4 events, right? Is that they're going to find their weaknesses and they're going to plug those holes. And they're in a particular arena with other armies that are doing the same thing.
Yep.
And we did talk to people and we said to them, look, you know, we want you to build on the army you've already got. So we don't want you turning up going, oh, I'm playing Blood Angels. Oh, Jesus Christ, my head just got kicked in. Quick, somebody go and get this. Get the fucking cult horde out for me instead, and I'm changing sides. Like, sure, if that's what you want to do, we're not going to stop you from doing it. But nobody's done that. What we're saying is, like, start with your Blood Angels, keep them for the 4 events. So you should be playing 8 games or more, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I need some anti-air stuff in my Blood Angels. So the next event, when you get your next allocation of points, you add some anti-air in there. Or, there's a lot of psychers running around. We need some psychic defense. We'll put some Sisters of Silence in there or an assassin or something like that. Like, that's not being whack, because I've seen people accused of that before where they've gone, oh, I got my ass handed to me last event by a lightning. I'm going to put a Deradeo in there. Like, oh, that's list tailoring. That's this, that's that. No, that's part of what happens in these campaigns.
That's right. That's just list evolution, right? Like,
and it's not dirty. It's not a bad thing. And, you know, just deciding, like, I think if people write a 3,000 point list, like, so they're going to start an army in 30k, and so they write a 3,000 point list, and then they go and buy everything and paint it all up, and bang, that army's done, and they're not allowed to touch anything. Like, I feel like that happens a bit in Heresy as well.
Yeah. Yes.
And so they're so final before they've played a single game with the list.
Yes.
And I would say to people, don't do that. Build a core, pick a core, but be able to change stuff in and out. And at the end of the day, if you're somebody that can keep a Heresy army to only 3,000 points, like, good on you. Because I think most people we know go, oh, I'm going to build 2,000 points or 3,000 points, and they end up at 10,000 points.
Yeah, well, I just sold off a whole bunch of my Iron Warriors not too long ago because I wasn't using terribly much of them, but I've still got more than I need because I want to be able to swap out for, oh, okay, cool, there's a few flyers showing up in the area, I'll throw the Deredeo in. Or, oh, okay, there's a lot of, Psychers, so I'll throw in something else. Or, okay, there's a lot of this, that, or the other thing, so I'll do that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and I think that's not whack. That's just good list design.
I don't feel like winning games, so I'll throw in Box Dreadnought and run Fury of the Ancients.
Yeah. So we're now we've been completely off topic for, I think, the last 15 to 20 minutes talking about that. But it's also not off topic.
Like,
yeah.
And I feel like it's been bubbling along underneath a lot of the Heresy community for a little while, particularly online. I guess maybe not so much in person, but definitely online. There's certainly this, like you said, reading lists in a vacuum and assuming intent.
Yeah. And look, especially after some of those conversations, and I think they were mainly UK-based conversations about Warhounds.
Yeah.
And we'd just come off, our last Stygian event, which was, 2 weeks ago now, and there were 6 Warhounds in the room.
Oh, were there?
I think it was 6. I think it was like 4, 5, or 6 or something like that in the room. And I can tell you now that some people might have gone, oh, holy shit, there's some Titans here. Like, wow, we're getting to the big end of things, because we were playing 3,000 points, right?
Yeah.
Nobody left that room worried about Warhounds.
No.
Nobody left that room worried about Warhounds, right? People left that room worried about, a bunch of Land Raiders driving at you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? People left that room worried about a bunch of plastic knights.
Yes.
I know one person that left that room really worried about Jewel Carey's Contemptors.
Oldie but a goodie.
But yeah, like, nobody was like freaking out at the end of that day about Warhounds in army lists.
No.
So,
and even if you didn't have the tools that game to like take them down effectively, next time when we go to 4,000 points, you'll have spent a decent chunk of points on something big and anti-tank.
Yeah. Whether you've done what I've done and just bought your own Warhounds.
Didn't you buy 2?
Yeah, I did actually buy a brace of Warhounds. Thank you very much.
Matrix of Ruin. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
I was looking at trying to squeeze a Reaver in, but they don't fit under the 25% bracket, which is a shame.
No, I looked at that as well before I bought the Warhounds. Because I love Reavers. Like, I'm a big Reaver guy. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool. But the other problem is you can never find Reavers to buy. Like, you have to literally go to Forge World to buy them.
Yeah.
They never seem to come up on for sale pages. Like, I see Warlords and I see like Warhounds all the time.
Yep.
I haven't seen a Reaver in well, actually, there was a Reaver that popped up the other day, but it was $1,000, and I was kind of like, that's a bit interesting. Why is it $1,000? Wasn't painted, was built, and I think maybe that was why the guy had built it and was like, oh, it's now worth $1,000.
Yep.
But yeah, so yeah, I've got some Warhounds on the way, Lucius pattern, which is awesome. But yeah, even if I ran like a Matrix of Ruin with 2 Warhounds at 4,000 points.
Yeah, whatever.
I know walking into that room that they're not the biggest dogs, right? No. They're not going to be. Are they going to be a tough list? Yes. Do I want to take tough lists? Yes, I do. Right? Like I'm to a point, and like I'm a guy that really doesn't care about winning or losing, because half the time I don't even play at my own events. But it is enjoyable to have a go, and I feel it's more enjoyable for the guy on the other side of the table as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Because unless you roll into somebody who has that sort of win at all costs mentality, most people don't want to steamroll you in 2 turns when they've gone to an event and paid money for it.
Yeah, that's right. It's certainly more of that playing the game, telling the story. forging the narrative, as it were, kind of set up.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We should get back to the errata.
Yeah, so back to the errata. There's honestly not a terribly large amount left in there to talk about. There's a little bit about, I mean, Inferno, obviously book 7 probably has the biggest shuffles in it. Stuff like Thousand Suns now, Cult Arcana can only generate from their discipline.
Yep.
So you can't, so you still get the buff, I guess, from that Arcana, but you can't pick Biomancy if you're Corvidae or whatever it is.
Yeah,
I think that I don't think Corvidae is the Biomancy one. I could be wrong. I don't know Thousand Suns at all. But basically, if you're Corvidae, you have to use the Corvidae powers, which I assume is divination.
Yeah, I was going to say Corvidae was divination, but I think it had something. Yeah, the change has something to do with people using Biomancy.
So basically, yeah. So you could pick Sekhmet and give them Biomancy because they were. Or is it? Do they have a specific Arcana? Anyway. But yeah, basically all it means is that you're a little bit more restricted in which powers you're choosing, which, to be honest, suits Thousand Suns. Like, they're very pick a path and stick to it.
Yeah. Like, look, and once again, this is one of those things where, you know, it'd be almost cool to have a little note that was like, was this a game balance, or was this just a background, or was it just a happy marrying of both?
Yep.
And the other thing with Inferno, obviously, there's some Space Wolf stuff.
Yep.
And I know from watching a lot of comments from Space Wolf players over the last few hours, it's cleared up a lot of stuff for them in regards to like the troops choices you can and can't take, how your HQ choices work, and and I think for the most part, people have been playing it this way.
Yeah.
Like, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I haven't seen too many people around the place trying to abuse the Space Wolf rules.
Not really.
But not that I think there was that much abuse you could have, but it's just straightened a lot of stuff out.
Yep.
Which is, you know, pretty cool. Like, you know, you can't take chaplains, librarians, and Primus Medicaes.
Yes.
Like, I don't remember ever seeing anybody there, but I remember a lot of Facebook conversations and posts about whether you could do it if you wanted to do it for some reason.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Russ got a couple of, or his armor got a slight tweak so that you can't, also that it's just a flat -1 to hit him to a maximum of 6 up, so that you can't make him impossible to hit, which is helpful. Secretary Axiarch's got independent characters, or the independent character special rule, which is helpful.
Yeah, no, that was good. That was something I think we even looked at last time. I'm like, ooh, that seems a bit weird.
Yeah.
And then I think, is it the last one on this page before the FAQs? No. The
Voltrax is the last bit.
Oh, I was just going to say that Porphyrans can actually have a
household rank.
Household rank.
But they can't be basic guys. They can't be Marshal or Aspirant. And they can't be Yulan, which is the fast attack kind of zippy one.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
So the big Mechanicum change is most probably that the Voltrax, as you were saying, so it no longer has a flare shield.
Yeah.
And it lost a point of toughness.
I don't think it did, actually.
Wasn't it toughness? I thought it was toughness 7.
It was toughness 7 in the experimental rules.
Okay.
And then they left it, then they dropped it to 6 and gave it a flare shield all around. And now they've dropped the flare shield.
Right, okay.
So now it has adamantic shielding instead, like all the other automata. So it's still got a 5 up, which is not bad. And you can upgrade it to Blessed Auto Simulacra, which is get a hull point back. Well,
6.
Wound, I guess, for these guys. Although, actually, that hasn't been FAQ'd yet. Because Blessed Auto Simulacra is a hull point back on a 5 or a 6 or something. So maybe we'll have Voltrax with hull points.
And the other thing is you can't take them in squadrons anymore.
You can. I was wrong on that one.
Oh, you can take them in squadrons?
Yeah, so it's 1 to start with, and then in the options you can include up to 2 additional Voltrax.
Oh, okay.
So that's fine.
Fair enough. No, I was just looking at the unit composition. It's like 1 Voltrax, but I'm guessing that all vehicles, all squadrons say that, don't they? Yep, cool.
Yep, I made that mistake also.
Okay, so basically they lost flare shields.
Yep. Oh, also you cannot attach characters to a Voltrax squad.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough.
which apparently was an issue.
Real? Okay. I don't know. Mechanicum players, man, they're just like a different breed.
Yep.
They're all numbers and stuff. They're all data cants and blah 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 blah. Okay, so we've then got the FAQ afterwards. I'm just thinking if there's anything.
I don't think there was anything there. I think these were mostly the ones that we saw like ages ago. Like sniper on stuff like blasts and templates and stuff.
Did we?
Combi Volkite and Combi Grenade aren't one use. Is this intentional?
Yeah. Is it possible to field multiple HQs with the provision they must be the Army's warlord? Was that one always in there?
That one's always been the case.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just clarifying it and kind of sort of codifying it.
Yeah, fair enough. And then obviously Terminator armor, it's back to like what they're modeled with. Well, not back to, but clarified to what they're modeled with.
Yep. Yep. So what is standard Terminator armor?
Yeah, and once again, the Misericordias are nothing.
Yep.
There you go. So that's all the basic errata that's fit to print. And we'll have a quick chat about custodes.
Yep.
Because they got their own. Now, look, I think this is. I don't think
pods super quick before we jump to toads.
Yeah, if you want to run through the pods, that was the one I closed.
Yeah. So the big thing for drop pods is really just that you have to get out now. You can't sit a dreadnought inside your pod and have armor inside armor.
You don't have to go home, but you can't basically.
Yeah, pretty much. So the machine spirit kicks your dread or your infantry out, and the doors have to be open. So you can't half open a drop pod.
Yeah, and the dreadnought drop pod just gives you shrouded.
Yep.
When you get out of it, great.
Oh, and box dreads can ride in Legion drop pods now, so you can drop them in a pod for 35 points rather than 100.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Yep. Don't ask us when you're getting a new dreadnought drop pod. We don't know.
Oh, next Tuesday, right? Like. Clearly, that's why they've discontinued all those lines to make space for the new drop pod.
Well, actually, if there is a weekender this week,
yeah, it might be there.
Maybe, don't know. Let's see, the Death Storm. Yeah, so it's got all the same sort of stuff in here.
Yeah.
We did also notice that on the Charybdis, if you're hovering, you can ram stuff with it, and when you ram stuff, it becomes a tank for the purposes of ramming.
Yeah.
And we think that is something new.
Yep. Don't quote us on that though.
Yeah, but that's.
I never use them.
No. I've never seen one ram anything either.
Yeah, no.
So, yeah, fun.
Doesn't mean you can put Orth in a special K. Because it's still not a tank. It's just
it's not a tank. It's just treated as a tank. Yes.
So none of that.
You're still trying to fit him into your warlord, right?
Yeah, that's right. I want him on a auto sinister Psi Titan. That'll be great.
All right. So Legio Custodes.
What do you want an Ordinatus? Ooh.
So Legio Custodes errata. So I don't think this is going to stop people from playing Custodes. Like overall, as an FAQ, it's mainly these.
Yeah, it's a lot of tweaks and clarifications based on sort of things that we knew were missing from Book 7 or things that were unclear from Book 7. A couple of tweaks based on, I guess, player feedback to some extent. We're looking at, all sorts of different bits and pieces like that. Nothing super drastic. Clarifications and slight changes to weapons and war gear. Stuff like Solarite Power Gauntlets or Power Talons, sorry, a +1 or +2 strength instead of +1 now, and no longer specialist weapons. Adrastus Bolt Calivers are now, or their volley is now Assault 3 rather than Heavy 3. Little bits and pieces like that, really, for the most part.
Yeah, sorry, I just had to mute there. I was just coughing a lung up.
That's okay. That's what I figured. So I
apologize.
filled the space with my velvety tones. The big things, though, I guess, for this set of things are probably the Presidium Shield. Is a big thing, so it doesn't get because it used to give a reroll, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it doesn't give that anymore. It's just +1 invulnerable save.
Yep.
Which is better, I guess. Is better ?
Well, there's no more re-rolling 3+ Tribune Shield Captain guys. Was that linked to this, or was that just linked to the removal of the Cyber Familiar?
So why do you need the Cyber Familiar if the Presidium Shield is... You've got Book 7 next year, right? Check the Presidium Shield for us. But that does lead into our next thing, which is that the Shield Captain no longer has the option of a Cyber Familiar. And indeed, neither does the Tribune.
Presidium Shield.
So Tribunes also, just to fill space while Andrew is flicking, Legio Custodes Tribunes can only be part of armies that are 2,000 points or more. But that's always been the case from memory. Just a quick reminder on that one. But the big thing is no Cyber Familiars for Shield Captains or Tribunes.
Presidium Shields reroll failed invulnerable saves and impose a -1 penalty to hit rolls on opponents who direct their attacks against the model assault.
Cool. Yep.
So this
and you can't use two-handed weapons.
So the Presidium Shield. Okay, so it now does the job of the Cyber Familiar.
Yeah, so the Cyber Familiar,
but it doesn't let you re-roll the failed invulnerable.
Yep.
Okay, so it's kind of shifted the rule from one side to another, and you've lost something in the mix. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I don't think that's a problem.
No, makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's good.
The rest of them are really just little bits and pieces, like the Contemptor Achilles with its 2 fists already has the extra attack in its profile, its spear only awards destroyer hits on the 6s to hit. Well, and only on the 6s to hit. Yeah. Because the old thing people were reading as, if you roll any 6s to hit with your Contemptor Achilles, every attack that hit was a destroyer hit because of the way it was worded.
Yeah, there was an extra in assault.
Yeah, so that
added into it that was a little bit strange. Yep. And there was also the jet bikes.
Yeah,
that didn't actually have weapons. Like the weapons didn't exist. The lances or whatever they were.
Yep. So they're just clarified out to power spears. So nothing terribly exciting there.
I know a few people have been saying that Constantine Valdor lost an attack. I think the only thing that it actually is that there's now a note on the digi-lasers that it's included in his profile.
Yeah, okay, so he's lost an attack that way.
People were trying to stack digi-lasers onto his 5 attacks to give him 6.
Yep. Well, if he's only got 5 attacks, he's clearly useless.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen anybody run Valdor.
Although, interestingly, a shield captain will have more attacks than him.
Yeah.
With digi-lasers.
No,
but you never see him being run because you want to run your stick and board Tribune.
Yeah.
With his 3-up rerollable.
I'm just having a look here. Is he still... does he count as being a Tribune?
No, but he has to be a Warlord.
So you could technically run him
and
under 2,000 points, can you?
Probably, actually.
Reroll, teleportation. Yeah, it doesn't say anything here about him not. HQ for a talent of the Emperor's list.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so you could take him in smaller points games.
Yep.
Which is fair enough. Well, actually, I don't know. when you think about it, he's as good as some Primarchs. Like, he's actually better than some Primarchs in combat, isn't he?
Only the ones that only have unwieldy. Oh wait, that's only Perturabo.
And you know what? I reckon Valdor in a future book's going to have a tank better than Tormentor too.
Yeah.
It's going to be gold. It's going to have grab engines.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past him. Some kind of grab shadow sword that can have monstrous creatures sitting in it.
And it's probably even got lucky dice.
Yeah, that's right. Just hanging from over the dash.
That's it, man. What else have we seen in here?
Nothing else really. The only other one was the Telemon, which also has its attacks built into its profile for its double fist.
Yeah, that's it. Now, when you were saying that it was experimental, was it ever taken off experimental before now?
It looks like it may have been. When I checked the other...
It wasn't experimental. Okay.
It wasn't experimental. So I think it was... I think it has been taken off experimental, but still not in a book. So
yeah.
Now it's just in the Talons of the Emperor Errata.
Yeah, which is good, I guess. Not that experimental rules ever made that much difference. We always allowed them.
Yeah, that's right. It's and some places won't though. So it's good to have a...
Yeah, that's very true. Like I think Warhammer World, if you went and played there, you weren't allowed to use experimental rules.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. I remember seeing it in a player pack for something a while ago. Whether that was the rule, I don't know.
That's a bit odd.
So, yeah. Overall, I don't think we're going to see, and this is what I was trying to say before I started coughing a lung up. If you're playing Custodes and you're enjoying Custodes, good.
Yep.
It's good that you enjoy the game that you spend a lot of time and money on. But I don't think it's going to change anybody. Like, I don't think we're going to see a big change in Custodes lists because of this errata.
No.
I don't think we're going to see anybody extra jumping on the bandwagon. Like even people I know that have walked away from Custodes, and there have been a few. There have been a few, and I will admit that, if more than any other army I've seen in 30K, I've seen people walk away from Custodes because they don't find them enjoyable to play when they're winning all the time and stuff like that. But I don't think it's going to fix any of those problems either. Like, does it fix Tribunes? Yeah, maybe. They're still nasty. They're still going to beat up on most stuff. But
at least they're not completely unkillable now.
I don't know. I'd send people.
Well, sorry. What I mean is, it's not going to feel as frustrating to fight them because even when you get a hit through, they just re-roll it away.
Yeah, true. And then that's probably a good thing. Like it's less that feel badsy stuff.
Yeah.
Where like you're not having any impact as an opponent.
Yep.
Yeah. So, nah. Any closing thoughts on the Custodes errata?
Not really. Honestly, it's really just clarifications and a couple of tweaks. Like, it's not like Constantine Valdor was nerfed hard and can't take a transport anymore or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's not like Agamata's jet bikes weren't given implacable advance when all the other jet bikes were. It's fine. Whatever. I'm not bitter about the Iron Warriors adjustments or anything. No, honestly, it's fine. I don't run most of those units normally anyway, except for Perturabo and Tormentor. So that slightly shits me. But I also don't use reserves much with Purdy anymore, so whatever.
Yeah, and just remember that if you're going to fire on a Titan, you need to fire with your heavy bolters first.
Yeah, clearly. Fucking hell. What's a Void Shield's armor?
12.
Bitch. It's a shame because I thought I could at least plink the voids off with the heavy bolters, and then they do something. Turns out, no. Your heavy bolters are purely there for decoration because if you want Tank Hunter, yeah, that's just great.
So it's right up there with possibly the most useless, and I don't know whether they changed this or not, but at one point the most useless weapon in the game was the heavy stubber on the back of an Avenger fighter.
Oh, because it's only got Skyfire?
Because the only thing, because it stated in the rules you could only ever fire at another aircraft. And it was never strong enough to damage other aircraft.
Yep, that's the one. Still has that. So it always has the Skyfire special rule, which means that you could shoot it at ground targets, but you're neg 1 to hit. But you're 6s to hit. You're only snap firing with it. Which means that you're really only shooting down, Voltrax with it, maybe? Like that's the only thing you could actually hurt with it. But yeah.
Could you? Yeah, you'd be wounding on 6s, I guess. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah. Okay, the heavy stubber. So overall impressions of the errata. It's great. It's nice that it's here. It means somebody somewhere at Forge World is still doing heresy stuff, which is great. It's good to see that. Even if it's taken them, how many years ago was book 7?
I don't know. You've got it there. What's the
18? I think it's a good 18 months since this has come out.
I think so. Yeah, that sounds about. Well, we were waiting for the new book last year, right?
Yeah. Well, the only thing I noticed it was 12 months since Alan passed the other day.
Yeah.
So it's at least been a bit over a year. Where's the date on this? 2016. So it's 2 years.
Yep.
It's the best part of 2 years, right? So that's a long time to get an errata for it, considering the issues with it. But, obviously there's reasons. Alan's passing wouldn't have helped anything at all. We know that caused massive problems, and it was easier to put stuff in a corner and just go, hey, we'll get to it. So it's great to see that. I think that it solved a lot of problems, but mainly like finicky Facebook discussion problems.
Yes.
More than real world people that actually go and play the game and turn up to events problems.
Yeah, very much so.
So I think to some extent it's a bit lacking. Like, obviously like the big win in there, as far as I'm concerned, is, marksman vets are not a thing anymore, which is great.
Yep. Yeah, very much so.
But I think a lot of the other stuff, take it or leave it. They could have gone harder on it. They could have done a lot less as well. So I think it's moving them in the direction towards being the new Forge World, in the same way that we have the new GW, but they're not quite there yet. I still want to see a little bit more out of them. I want to see the next book. I want to see an FAQ and an errata done inside of, say, 3 months. I don't want to hold them to the Games Workshop standard of here's a codex and the next week, bang, straight away, here's everything for it. And anybody that wants to have an argument about that, it should just be a perfect book when it comes off the production line, however many months before it actually gets released, can go fuck themselves. Because it's about surviving contact with players.
Yes.
When you have like a player base in the millions, like I don't know where the Heresies is in the millions, but for 40k, right?
That's right.
I would like to see a new black book, and then I would like to see within 3 months an FAQ errata in this same style of that black book.
Yeah.
That would make me feel really happy as a player and as an event organizer and that sort of thing. Like, our events always have been and always will continue to be, as far as I can see, for the foreseeable future. Official's the wrong word, but like if they put out an FAQ, we use it.
Yep.
We don't pick and choose what we want to use and what we don't want to use. I have no problems with people that do that. I have no problems with people that house rule things. But the sort of events we want to run for the community that we run them in and for the reasons that we run our events, we want to be playing the game as the game designers envisaged it, right?
Yeah, so, that's right.
For our August event, all of these are in play. There's no choice about what you can and can't do. These are in play. This is what you're using, right?
Yeah. And
I think moving forwards, we're always going to sort of keep that, if we get new books, you can use the new book. If there's experimental rules, you can use experimental rules, right? Mm-hmm. Not a problem with that at all. So I just want to see Forge World sort of keep up with it. Like, I don't want to see when I go to their Horus Heresy page in 2020 that we've got 3 things from 2018, 1 thing from 2016 for a completely different game.
Yeah, that's right.
Yet we've had more books released and more units released. I just keep them updated. Like I honestly don't think it takes that much. And, some of the changes we see in there are very obviously changes that have come out of the community, if that makes sense. Like the community's gone, hey, we have a problem with marksman vets.
Yep.
They've done something about it. And it's such a big problem. Like when you look at the things in there, like there wasn't much else that was just like, no, fuck it, it's gone.
Yeah.
You know, it is that so much of a scourge. It's gone.
Yeah, that's right. That has just been removed like a tumor, and then
just excised and put into nutrient fluid by Apothecary Fabius somewhere.
That's right. It's on ice somewhere, waiting to be reinserted at some stage.
Yeah. So no. Okay, so that's the erratas, and obviously, you know, there'll be a lot of other podcasts and people around that have their own views on it, and that's awesome. But ours is the correct one. Don't forget.
Yeah, clearly, we're all you need. But you know, other people may have other insights that we have missed.
We actually also lower cholesterol. I found out.
Oh,
we have like the healthy, we're like a healthy heart podcast.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is that because we have an awful lot of salt normally? I mean, I get today has been quite salty, but normally we lower your blood pressure, right?
Don't mention the heavy bolters, and we're all good.
They're not even shrapnel.
So we got halfway through that podcast, and you started talking about something to do with Monopoly. I feel like we need to deal with this before we finish up, because we've always had issues about the way that Games Workshop licenses products. There's an incredible it's like an Onion article. I can't remember if it is the Onion or not, but one of those like satire news websites wrote an article about 2 or 3 years ago when Games Workshop started making a ton of smartphone games.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was Pigeon that accidentally got stuck at Games Workshop HQ in Nottingham, given a license for mobile game. And if I can find it, I'll like reshare it on our Facebook page, because it's fucking hilarious. And it was basically like every man and his dog that asks for a license is given a license by Games Workshop.
Yeah, they went a bit Kickstarter-ish there, didn't they? Just like, hello, Games Workshop, your project has been greenlit.
And look, there were some absolutely god-awful fucking licensed products from Games Workshop.
Yeah, there were some terrible ones.
A lot of them were mobile games.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to see them doing a Monopoly game, which I think is Monopoly still Milton Bradley?
I believe so. I'm not sure, but there's not much to say, to be honest.
Well,
because the article is not much. It's just, it's coming. Maybe pick it up. Like, they don't seem to be going hard on it.
No. Look, I think
the first line is, "Hey, ever wondered what it might be like to be a property baron in the 41st millennium?" Oh, us neither.
I go to sleep most nights thinking about those sort of things.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, like I'm just totally all over it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's due out in mid-August. Apparently.
Yeah, late 2018 is the official line.
Apparently, there's a few. I'm just reading the Twitter announcement here. Amazon listing for Monopoly has more details. Okay, so it's going to be $40 on Amazon. So I imagine that's 40 US.
Yeah, that sounds like it's 40 US.
Take the Infinite War to new levels in Monopoly Warhammer 40,000. So I have a feeling that has to do with the fights that you get into with the people you're playing Monopoly with.
Yeah.
Players one.
On the Monopoly board, there is only war.
Yep. Players one of 6 iconic metal tokens representing key factions. That's interesting.
The dog, the shoe, the eye.
No, okay. So the custom tokens are an Elder Rune, an Orc Chopper, a Chaos Star, a Space Marine helmet, a Necron Monolith, or a Tyrannid Ripper.
How are you going to move a monolith around a Monopoly board? They're huge.
I was just going to say that. Like, that's kind of the one that's out of the... yeah. One of these does not belong. Necron Monolith. Blurp. You have landed on Mayfair. I am disgorging robots. Blurp.
I have landed everywhere.
Yeah, that's... fucking hell.
I doubt it's 28 mil. Although, if you had a 28 mil solid pewter monolith, hang on to that. So
make your way around the board, buying, selling, and trading properties from the 41st millennium. no word as to whether Cadia is going to be on the board.
Look, Cadia stands, mate. Cadia stands.
Or just in people's hearts.
No. The planet may have broken before the guard did, but Cadia stands. Nothing happened on Cadia. It's fine. Useless planet anyway. We were happy to see it gone.
Yeah.
Right? That's what the regimental standard told me, and they only print the truth.
Yeah. Actually, I think the most interesting thing about this is on the Twitter thing for Board Game Geek, right?
Yeah.
Which I just clicked on that sent me to the Amazon listing that I was reading from. The only reply is from a guy called Proud Lego Dad, which is not me, even though my name sounds very similar and I'm a proud dad.
Yep.
What we don't need, number one, new editions of Monopoly. Number two, fascists censoring BGG forums and harassing loyal users.
I guess.
Is this another dig at Cadia?
I have no idea.
So anyway, I think that's done the Monopoly release to death. Anything else you want to add before we close out for tonight?
The Astra Militarum Kill Team article has just dropped on Warhammer Community.
Oh yeah. Actually, let's have a chat.
I'm in the middle of posting it to our page as we speak.
Once again, guys, the sausage is being made. Do you have a bit of a chat? Like, do you have the time to talk a bit more, Kill Team?
Yeah, I have a bit of time.
Like all I'm doing tomorrow.
I'm on school holidays, so I'm or term holidays for TAFE, so I don't need to be anywhere tomorrow morning.
Fair enough. The only thing I'm doing is starting uni again tomorrow morning.
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever.
So
sleep through till lunch then, and you'll be all right.
Yeah. So Kill Team looks absolutely incredible.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the terrain that we saw, the like the cathedral sets.
Yes.
Holy crap! Like I'm
so good.
Absolutely blown away by that. Like we saw it a little while ago, and it kind of nothing ever came of it.
Yeah.
So it was, it was very cool to see it pop back up again, and it's just, it's absolutely beautiful. Although, as somebody pointed out to me the other day, their old city terrain has been removed from the website.
Yeah.
But had that happened a long time ago, or is that more a recent thing?
A long time ago, but they've been steadily getting rid of it. I think they've basically just been depleting their stocks.
Yeah.
So, like, as something's run out, they just haven't come back to it. And they've been looking at, working on this stuff instead, I guess.
Yeah, and the Shadow War Armageddon terrain, that's the Mechanicum sector terrain or whatever it is, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So no, they just look absolutely awesome. And like the Kill Team picture, that's got like the mat you get in the box and the terrain you get in the box.
That whole box looks great.
Yeah, like it's a little bit interesting that the battlefield is 22 by 30.
Yeah, it was a weird
like once again, I wonder if I went to IKEA, their bitch basic coffee table is like 23 by 31 or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I think somebody actually
was lying around. I need to measure one. I suspect they're 30 by 30.
Yeah.
So it gives you 30 across and then a little bit of space to put stuff.
Yeah. Because I think somebody actually measured like when they did their what was it, Moonbase, Clasius, and whatever the other one was that had the weird sized battlefields in it.
Yeah,
and we're like, does that fit IKEA?
Dining table, right?
It literally did fit the IKEA dining tables.
Yep.
Obviously, nothing wrong with that. It's just very smart marketing and design. Like
it's really, really clever.
They're sort of thinking about things. So I wonder whether there is like a coffee table there that is 30 by 30 or 30 by 26 or something, and it fits really well on it.
Yeah.
But no, it's cool. I like the idea that it's a smaller table size for playing this stuff, and I imagine it wouldn't be hard to boost it up and play it on a bigger table as well.
Yeah, I'd imagine you could go to like a 3x3 quite easily, or maybe even a 4x4 if you wanted to make it feel a bit more open. And
yeah, well, I've already seen somebody that wants to use Tau suits, like big Tau suits in Kill Team.
okay.
So maybe if you play that guy, you want to play it on a 4x4.
I don't think so. I want to be up close to them. Well within assault range, right off the bat.
So the other thing that we've seen is the factions. So the factions that are missing are Talons of the Emperor.
Yep.
Sisters of Battle.
Yeah.
And I think that's it.
That's pretty much it. So there's, no Custodes, no Sisters of Battle. At least in the first wave. I don't know what we'll get later.
Yeah, I'm just having a look. So you can play Grey Knights, you can play Death Watch. The one thing that a lot of people are a little bit unhappy about, although the game hasn't dropped, so just calm down, is Space Marines are all just Adapters Astartes. You're not having like Space Wolves and Blood Angels and this and that as all separate, at least at release. The same thing goes for Heretic Astartes. Like, you know, you're not having Khorne and Slanesh and Tzeentch and all this sort of stuff. So, although there is, sorry, that's a lie. There is actually
still Death Guard Astartes,
separate, because they're obviously separate armies to Heretic Astartes.
But they play wildly different anyway, right?
Yeah. And I would imagine it's the same for like for the Drukhari. You're not going to have different cabals and sects and whatnot in there. It's just you're playing Dark Elder and you can have a warrior and a witch and a rack or something like that.
Yeah.
However they end up sort of
really it's going to. So just quickly casting my eye over the Space Marine faction focus. It looks like your unit choice and kind of tactic usage is what they're sort of pushing you towards to represent particular chapters. So like using Scouts and Reavers to represent your Raven Guard or something. And, you know, Intercessors and Tacticals for Ultramarines, and not necessarily using them exclusively, but sort of having a bit of a focus for your squad.
Yeah, and look, I think the other thing that comes into play here, like it doesn't worry me too much, even though I'll probably put together a Space Marine kill team at one point, is that when you boil it down to 2 or 3 guys, you may not actually have a lot of those individualistic chapter traits coming through in 1 or 2 guys, especially when you've got 1 scout, 1 intercessor, 1 tactical marine sort of thing. Like, I feel like, yeah, sure, if you're Space Wolves, they're still going to be wearing some pelts and some wolf teeth and all this sort of crap, but having a guy that's a what do they call their scouts?
Oh, the Reaver?
No, like wolf scouts or whatever their specific. So like I saw somebody was like, oh, you know, our guys are elites, not troops. It's not going to make any sense. And it was like, well, not really. Like, it's 1 guy. Like, you're not going to get that flavor in 1 dude. And it's like a Blood Angel kill team. You're not going to randomly have 1 Death Company guy in a kill team. They're the last people you're putting in a kill team, all right? So you're also not going to have, you know, if you've got 3 Blood Angels, one of them's not randomly going to become a Death Company guy out of that. Like, it's a possibility, but it's probably not the way it's going to happen. You're going to have just 3 guys that, for the most part, abide by the Codex Astartes.
Well, I mean, it's
their red armor.
Yeah, it's a kill team, right? So you're not sending your most unstable guys out; you're sending your best out.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Like the guys who are teetering on the edge of that Black Rage aren't going to be the ones that you're like, go stealth in.
Yeah, that's...
You can go assassinate this guy and leave no trace you were ever there. Like, well, nobody will notice if there's nobody to notice. And just in he goes. That's not how kill teams work. And I mean, like Astra Militarum, by the looks of things, just flicking over their brand spanking new faction focus, don't have regiments.
Yeah. Like, I can't imagine you're going to have any like chapter traits or regimental doctrines in there. No. It's just your Imperial Guard veterans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
not even actually, it's guardsmen.
Oh, cool.
Guardsmen, special weapon guys, and scions look like they're your options.
Oh, cool. That could be cool. Mixing scions with
Yeah.
normal guardsmen. I don't mind.
Well, I
Mind
feel like that
something
gives me a really solid option in terms of doing like a Tanith kill team. Like I could drop some Volpone Blue Bloods in, or
Yeah.
some Rowan Deeper kind of Grenadiers or something.
Yeah, and then obviously from what we've seen, kill team's all about upgrading individual guys with
correct.
I'm sure they've got a word for what they are.
Specialists.
Yeah, so you get specialists, and then you've also got tactics or stratagems, I guess they are, that you can use during the game that have a command point amount. So there's a few different things that all sort of like layer on top. So if you want a demolitions guy, there is like a level tree for demolitions that you go through.
Oh yeah, that little campaign, the little character progression sheet.
Yeah. So like you do assign specialties to different people. And as they say, you can have one branch is going to be a dude with a flamer, the other one's going to be a guy chucking grenades.
Yeah.
And that's done through this. It's not done through choosing a guy off an army list from 40k, if that makes sense. And I think that's cool because it's about, growing as you go through campaigns. Like Kill Team, you could just pick up and play in a lunchtime.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to shine if it's done as a campaign.
Yeah,
like they have Kill Team campaign trees for missions. And you play this mission, and then it's, if you do this, you then move on to this one. The other thing that I noticed, which was pretty cool, is it is going to be a multiplayer game with up to 4 people.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with that. Although, they're already saying alternating activations.
Yep.
So that's going to work.
Makes multiplayer work much easier.
Yeah, that'll work in quite well. It'll be, guy by guy or however it sort of works out. And then there's going to be open narrative and matched play as well. So because I think like Kill Team would make a great tournament game.
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit Shadespire-y that way, right? Like it's over relatively quick. Alternating unit activation means that nobody really gets alpha struck terribly badly.
Yeah, and you're always engaged. Like that's one big thing about alternating activations in a game like Infinity is you're always engaged in it.
Yep.
And it's going to be, ongoing support. It's just the beginning. It's going to be a fully fledged Warhammer system that we'll be supporting for years with rules, models, expansions, and mores. So that's really fantastic. I know my first Kill Team off the what's going to be a Space Marine one. Because it gives me something to do with the Minotaurs bits I've got hanging around. So I think I'm going to put a Minotaur Kill Team together. And I feel like that's a very Minotaursy thing as well. I'd be like out hunting like Space Marines for the Inquisition.
Yeah. I guess they'll do the Astral Claws.
Yeah, actually.
Steal a cult. One or the other.
Yeah.
Some bad guy faction.
No, that sounds like a lot of fun. Although, like the thing is, if you feel like starting a new army or you really like some models, Kill Team is great because you're just like, I really like those, Striking Scorpions, but I don't want a whole Elder army.
Yep.
Buy, beg, borrow, steal, barter a couple of Striking Scorpions or a Striking Scorpion. You get to paint it, you get to model it up, and you get to chuck it into a Kill Team. And you only need 4 or 5 dudes, and
yeah, that's right.
You're sort of done. Yep.
I
love it. I can see us playing a lot of games of Kill Team.
I think so too.
I can see us putting Kill Team into narrative campaigns that we do.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd really love to see, and it's probably something that might be worth looking at as well, depending on what we want to do. But I would be very interested to see how well it transfers into something like 30k.
Yeah.
Or at least using 30k army lists and stuff, because it would be very cool. Like there were tons of Kill Teams when you look at Shadow War stuff during the Heresy.
Yep.
Like a couple of Space Marines here and there caught behind enemy lines, trying to get back to their Legion, or just going, fuck it, let's just kill as many people as possible. So I wonder whether, even if it's just the missions, and playing it on a smaller board or something like that works out. I think that would be a very cool project, is to try and fit it to 30k.
Yes, definitely.
Really
good.
Anything else before we close out?
Not really. Hey, it looks really exciting. I'm keen for it. I'm not sure that I'll buy the starter set for it, just because I don't need extra Skitarii or Genestealer Cult. And I've bought like 3 starter sets in the last 4 months.
I know what you mean. Like, I'm sort of a bit tapped out at the moment, just in spending in general on everything.
Yeah, but I'll definitely get the rule book.
I think
the terrain will definitely get a look in as well.
Yeah, I think I prefer
get it straight away, but
yeah,
I'd rather start playing, I think, than just have the starter box.
Yeah, terrain, and I actually quite like if the battlefield's going to be a very specific size, which it obviously is, and they're going to do some mats for it or whatever they are. I think I want to make sure I can get my hands on a few of those.
Yeah, one of those Killzone box sets that's got like the mat and terrain bits. Yeah, that looks really good.
Yeah, that looks awesome. So,
and I also quite like, because they've previewed the Space Wolf and the Orc boxes, or the Space Marine and the Orc boxes.
Yep.
Which come with some extra stuff as well. So like the Orcs get the galvanic servo haulers and like just little bits and pieces that you can add in to personalize it a little bit.
Yeah, and look, I would imagine
quite quickly convert those servo haulers into like orky bits and pieces that you could scatter and all that sort of stuff.
Well, and look, the other thing is, I imagine that Games Workshop at the moment, their boxes, you're getting good deals on them. So yeah, I would hope that you get a fairly good deal on these boxes, whether it's you're getting the guys for free or you're getting the terrain for free or whatever it is. It would be fairly well priced, I would imagine, which will be cool. So, okay, I think that's everything. We've covered some good errata talk. Hopefully a few people listening might come away with a different definition of what whack is after our little soapbox segment there in the middle of everything else. And we're all pumped for Monopoly in the 41st millennium.
Get in on it. Get the starter box. It'll be great.
All right, guys. Look, thanks for listening. And I'm sure you'll hear a bit more from us over the next couple of weeks when I've got a little bit more time to be doing things.
Excellent.
And I'm actually playing a few games as well, which should be tons of fun. So thanks for listening. Have a great night, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.